volume 2 of the October diaries. So I've been watching scary movies for the past 3 hours and I'm a little bit spooked. I saw The Body by Uriol Paulo and then The Others. Both movies were directed by Spanish film directors and I truly think that both of them are amazing. In my previous video, in my October diaries volume 1, I talked about the spooky movies and TV series that I want to watch during October, but I forgot to mention that I'm also watching The Rings of Power, the new Lord of Rings series adaptation. It's not scary or spooky, so I didn't mention it, but I am watching it. The last episode comes out the 16th of October. I'm a little bit sad because I'm really enjoying it. The entire aesthetic, cinematography, the sound effects, the entire costumes, and just everything about that series, mind blown. Like, I do not have any words. I truly think it's a really good one. So a little reading update. I'm currently reading The Witches by Stacy Schiff, but I'm almost done with this book and I'm a little bit sad because I'm really enjoying it. I've annotated the book quite a bit and I'm just learning so many new things with this book that I didn't know. I didn't know that, for example, when they talk about witches, they were talking about men and women. Witch was a term used for both male and female. The pure hysteria everyone was living through this time is just so heartbreaking to read about. When I was reading some reviews about this book, people were complaining that this book was very dense and it felt like reading an essay, it felt like reading a textbook. But I like that, I like that type of feeling. At the beginning I wasn't really feeling the writing style because I just was confused with how the author was writing this story, but now I've gotten used to her writing style, so I'm really enjoying this book. So far from what I've read, I would recommend this book. And then another book that recently arrived into my life, Babel by rxver. I'm so happy that I finally have a copy of Babel. Whenever I finish reading The Witches, I'm going to start reading Babel and I'm going to have the time of my life reading this book. If this book felt like an essay, I cannot wait to read this essay because everyone says that this book feels like reading another textbook. I like reading those type of books. Obviously, sometimes my mind needs something more easy to read, but I'm ready for this. Like, I'm all in and ready for this one, so I cannot wait to read it. Here I have 2 books that I really enjoy, one about witchcraft and one about dark academia. I'm happy. That's what makes me happy in life. I think I'm going to spend the rest of my night watching more scary movies. Maybe, like, I'm really in the mood to watch the Halloween Town movies. I actually want to make just an entire weekend dedicated to those movies. So I think I may rewatch the Haunted Mansion movie. That's one of my favorite Disney movies. I'm just going to spend the rest of my night watching the haunted house while eating some cookies and just feel this autumnal Halloween spooky mood. I hope you're all having a very nice October so far. Ever since I woke up. I'm going to continue reading and having and enjoying this book. I'm not ready for it to be over, but I mean, after reading this book, I'm going to start reading Babel. So at the same time, I mean, it's just one great book after another great book, and literature. I love books so much. Good morning, everyone. I woke up and it was very foggy, and I loved it because I haven't seen a foggy day in months. I've been very anxious lately. I have this uneasy feeling on my stomach that I just cannot kick off my body. So for the past few days, I've been rewatching the same two movies. There are two rom-com movies. One of them is from 2004 and the other one is from 2010. I've been rewatching Chasing Liberty and Leap Year. There's a common theme in these movies in case you haven't seen them, and that common theme is Matthew Good. I don't know why, like I keep rewatching these movies. I think I do know why actually. But that's another topic. If you like the typical early 2000s rom-com, I think you will like Chasing Liberty. And if you like Ireland, like any type of movie set in Ireland, I think you will like Leap Year. I used to live in Ireland and I miss it so much. My common theme for the books I've been reading lately is witchcraft with dark academia, with a little bit of vampires and just the occult theme. So I finished reading The Witches by Stacy Schiff. I've had such a fun time annotating this book because I've just found so many new historical facts and just people that I didn't know of, and I'm for sure going to go back to my annotations and just keep learning new things and keep searching new things I found. While I was reading this book, they kept mentioning a witch that was named Bishop, like her last name was Bishop. And I kept thinking like, this name sounds familiar to me and I don't know why until I found out why. I read The Discovery of Witches last year, I think around April or May, and I didn't like it. Like I didn't hate it. When I started reading this book, I thought it was going to be a dark academia, not very romance-based story. I went into this book with very different expectations of what the book was really about. I thought it was going to be very dark academia focused with fantasy. That romance was a big part into the story, and it makes sense that it's a big part, but at that time I just didn't want to read anything about romance. But after finishing this book, I kept thinking about it, and I've mentioned before that I want to continue the series, but I just didn't have the inclination to actually do it until now. I decided to read this book now because Diana, who is one of the main characters in this book, she is a descendant of the Bishop Witch of Salem. So obviously she doesn't exist, and she did exist. So Diana in this book is a descendant of one of these witches. So I just thought, let's continue the witchy mood, the witchy theme, and reread A Discovery of Witches. And the second time around reading this book, I had so much fun. I think it's because I already knew this story and I knew what I was going to get into. I knew that the romance was going to be very intense and cheesy, like with a cheesy dialogue, and that Matthew was going to be very protective and just a very, he's a vampire of his time, let's just say that. I do think that the magical system in this book is pretty fun to read about because, with the occult themes, at the end of the day, all the magical systems are pretty much the same, but Deborah Harkness also adds new elements into these magical systems that I don't usually read about, so I think that's fun. And also the first chapters when they're in Oxford, that's so much fun. I do really like when they throw like contemporary themes, like for example when they do yoga. Like I don't like reading about that, but that's just me, that I find it kind of weird to see vampires, demons and witches doing yoga together. That's like a weird thing for me. This book talks a lot about science, history, alchemy, about DNA, genetics, and just things that I love reading about. As you all know, I love reading about non-fiction history books, and this book is fiction obviously, but there's actually a lot of historical events and also real life people that existed. And I just love searching about those people and just learning new things. I'm actually reading the second book and I have so much research to do with the second book because there's like so many new characters. Also in the second book, they time travel to the Elizabethan times. Elizabethan, I think that's how you say it in English. They time travel to the past. So there's just so many new things to learn about. And also they traveled to a time where witches were very highly persecuted. Like, after reading this book and the massive hysteria everyone was going through, I kept thinking, poor Diana, she's going to go through it. I'm not even 100 pages into the second book, but so far I'm really liking it as well. And I think I'm going to have a good time reading this series, so I'm excited to continue. And then lastly, I'm going to talk about Babel. I'm only on page 20. I still don't have a lot of thoughts about this book because, like I said, I'm only 20 pages in. But so far, I'm really liking it. With only having read 20 pages, there's already so much talk about losing one's identity due to colonialism and also due to trying to adapt to a new environment. Something that they mention like 10 pages in is that the boy, since he's going to move away from China, he has to change his name. Well, he has to change his name, like they make him change his name. And that reminded me of when I moved outside of Spain, that people didn't know how to pronounce my name. They just decided to give me like a new name, like a new pronunciation to my name. And I can kind of understand that, but at the same time, my name is not that difficult to pronounce. And also, for example, my mom, no one knows how to pronounce her name and her two last names. She had to give herself a nickname when she was young. Now that she's older, she's trying to take back her identity of her name and she's using her real name. I'm enjoying Babel so far, and I don't think I've mentioned the second book of A Discovery of Witches series. It's called The Shadow of Night. I'm currently reading The Shadow of Night and Babel. Right now I'm very in the mood to continue reading The Shadow of Night because I just want to continue being in the universe of A Discovery of Witches. It's so fun that the first time I read A Discovery of Witches, I didn't think too much about it. Like, I wasn't really enjoying my time reading that book, but then I kept thinking about that book for months and months and months, and now I'm really enjoying the series. So right now I'm going to continue enjoying this rainy, foggy, autumnal atmosphere while I read Shadow of Night, and maybe next I'm going to watch Live Year. Oh, and also I recently made a Dark Academia reading playlist. In case you want to use that playlist when you read, I'm going to link it in the description box.